How to Leave America. France, the allure of France. There's something about France that feels like a promise, a whisper that somewhere beyond the daily grind, beyond the endless traffic and strip malls, there's a place where life still moves to the rhythm of people instead of profit, where the world hasn't been flattened by convenience and sameness, where the smell of baking bread in the morning still feels sacred. France isn't just a destination. For many people thinking about leaving America, it's a symbol of taste, of balance, of civilization. A country that seems to have said no to the chaos that swallowed so much of modern life. You can almost feel that resistance in the way the French still sit down for meals, or the way they protect language like it's a national treasure. People come here for beauty, yes, but more than that, they come for a feeling. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, life doesn't have to be a competition. The dream of France. Before you move anywhere, you live there in your mind first. For Americans dreaming of France, that image usually begins in Paris. Narrow cobblestone streets, golden light, cafe chairs turned toward the world like little stages. A world that looks like it never aged, that never gave in to drive-through culture. But that's only one France. There's also the rugged coastline of Brittany, where cliffs fall into cold Atlantic waves. The lavender fields of Provence, buzzing with bees and centuries of patience. The vineyards of Burgundy, where wine isn't a luxury, it's an archive of memory. And the mountains of the Alps, where even silence feels dramatic. Each region feels like a separate country within a country, and that's part of the spell. You could spend 10 years here and still feel like you're discovering new worlds inside one border. For Americans used to sameness, the same stores, same food chains, same architecture from Florida to Oregon, this difference feels like oxygen. A different kind of freedom. When you talk to people who've actually made the move, what stands out isn't just the food or the healthcare or the beauty. It's a kind of quiet freedom. Not the loud flag-waving version, but the freedom to slow down without guilt. In America, slowing down can feel like failure. In France, it feels like respect for time, for craft, for yourself. Lunch breaks aren't optional. Vacations aren't bragged about, they're expected. People don't apologize for rest. That rhythm changes you. You start walking slower, eating slower, even thinking slower, but in a way that feels more alive. It's not laziness, it's presence. You realize how exhausting it is to always be optimizing, upgrading, achieving, and how radical it feels just to enjoy something simple, a glass of wine, a conversation, a walk that leads nowhere. The Great Escape. For some, France is escape from burnout. For others, it's exile from a country that no longer feels like home. And for many, it's both. Artists have been coming here for exactly that reason for over a century. From the lost generation, Hemingway, Baldwin, Gertrude Stein, to modern expats fleeing corporate life, France has always been a place for people who wanted to rewrite their lives. You can feel it in the air, that sense of permission to start over. Nobody really cares who you were before you arrived. You don't need to justify your reinvention. One American writer once said, "Paris isn't an escape, it's a mirror." What you find here often depends on what you're running from.
The myth of romance. Of course, the movies and social media sell an impossible dream. Not every day is croissants and sunsets. You'll get bureaucracy, you'll get strikes, you'll get trains that just don't run that day because the conductor decided it shouldn't. But even that has a strange charm when you first arrive. That sense of unpredictability that feels human again, not algorithmic. What many find is that the French aren't chasing happiness the way Americans are. They chase pleasure, smaller, deeper, daily pleasures. And they see happiness not as a goal, but a byproduct of living well. Maybe that's why life here feels less frantic, even when it's messy. The American view. From an American lens, France can feel like a contradiction. It's proud but self-critical, elegant but blunt. It's a country that will critique you for bad grammar, but shrug off broken rules. And somehow it works. A French person once told me, "We argue because we care." There's an emotional honesty in French life that can be jarring. People tell you exactly what they think. But it's not meant to hurt, it's meant to connect. You're expected to bring your full self into every conversation. To Americans, this can feel confrontational. To the French, it's respect. That's part of what makes living here so fascinating. You're constantly decoding the culture. It humbles you. It makes you listen more. And somewhere along the way, you realize that's what you came for, to be changed. Life beyond the postcard. The dream of France isn't just about aesthetics. It's about a philosophy of life. You feel it most in the small towns away from Paris, where people still buy bread twice a day because freshness matters more than convenience. Where markets open in the morning and close before lunch because nobody's rushing. In these places, community isn't a buzzword. It's a way of life. People know their butcher, their baker, their pharmacist, their neighbor. Conversations happen in person, not through screens. It's the opposite of isolation. And that's what many expats realize they've been missing. Not just safety or opportunity, but belonging. The hidden appeal. When you strip away the romanticism, what France really offers is a slower form of ambition. You still work hard, but not for the same reasons. You start measuring success in free time, in depth of experience, and how often you actually feel content. And there's something deeply healing about that. Many Americans describe a sense of decompression when they arrive, like they've been holding their breath for years and didn't realize it. France gives them permission to exhale. You don't have to become French. You just learn to live more deliberately, and that alone can feel revolutionary. The sound of civilization. Sometimes you notice it in tiny moments. A cafe owner who remembers your order. A stranger correcting your French with a smile. A view of the Seine at dusk when the city goes quiet, and you realize people actually stop to admire it. It's easy to mock that as cliché until you experience it. And it feels like sanity. Because in a world that's constantly demanding your attention, France demands something else, your presence. And that, maybe more than anything, is what people come here for. Not just a new address, but a new way of being alive. France isn't paradise, but it's one of the few places left that believes in the art of living. Not as a slogan, but as a civic duty. And for anyone trying to leave America, it's often the first country that makes them wonder what freedom really means. We'll explore what happens when that dream meets the reality of moving. Visas, costs, bureaucracy, and how culture shock becomes its own kind of education. But for now, imagine it. The sound of footsteps on old stone streets. The smell of bread and rain. And the quiet realization that you've already left. Not the country, but the version of yourself that couldn't stop running. France isn't just what you see in the movies. Baguettes under the arm, an accordion tune in the background, a cafe on every corner. That image is real enough, but it's also a performance. The deeper truth of France begins when you step behind that stage curtain. The first thing you notice in France, really notice, isn't the Eiffel Tower or the food. It's the quiet confidence of a place that knows it's old. The French don't rush to modernize every corner of their history. They let things breathe. A 200-year-old bakery will stay a bakery. The worn stone stairs, the chipped tiles, they aren't signs of neglect, but of continuity. To understand France, you have to start thinking in centuries, not years. The country of layers. Every village, every quarter of Paris, every region feels like a cross-section of time. You can stand in a medieval alley in Rouen, hear church bells from a Gothic cathedral, walk 10 minutes, and find yourself beside a modern tram gliding past glass offices. The coexistence isn't jarring, it's seamless. That's France's genius, layering. It's not just architecture, its philosophy, politics, and daily life. France absorbs. It doesn't erase. The revolution didn't wipe out the monarchy completely. It reinterpreted it. The Catholic Church still stands tall beside secularism. The baguette coexists with sushi and kebabs. The French don't panic over contradiction. They simply make it French. It's what gives the country that paradoxical charm. Progressive yet traditional, rebellious yet rooted. Paris, the stage and the shadow. Paris is the obvious magnet, and it deserves the attention. But most travelers never make it beyond the script. Eiffel Tower, Louvre, Notre Dame, Montmartre. It's easy to forget that Paris is a living organism, not a museum. When you step into the outer arrondissements, the 18th, 19th, 20th, you meet the real Paris. Immigrant families running bakeries and bistros, murals painted on cracked walls, old men arguing politics in tiny parks. Paris has always reinvented itself through outsiders. Algerians, Vietnamese, Senegalese, Moroccans, now Syrians and West Africans. Each wave left fingerprints on the culture, the slang, the rhythm of the streets. To walk through Paris is to walk through a debate about identity. Every wall seems to be asking, was French really? That question isn't rhetorical. France is constantly wrestling with it. In its politics, in its art, in its food, in its fashion. It's a country where pride and anxiety about its identity coexist in the same breath. Beyond the capital, the beating heart of the regions. Leave Paris, and the entire character of France shifts. Normandy feels like a muted watercolor. Fog, cliffs, cider, and quiet dignity. Provence is sunlight painted gold, fields of lavender, and the hum of cicadas. Brittany feels older than the map itself, with Celtic echoes in its cliffs and myths. The southwest, Toulouse, Bordeaux, is all red brick, wine, and warmth. Then there's Corsica, technically France, spiritually independent. The birthplace of Napoleon, yes, but also the land where people still speak a language closer to Italian and pride burns hotter than the Mediterranean sun. Each region believes it's the real France, and they're all right. This diversity is why traveling through France feels less like visiting one country and more like flipping through a beautifully bound anthology. Every chapter written in a different tone. The pulse of daily life. French life unfolds in smaller moments. It's the ritual of a morning coffee at the same bar, with the same people reading the same newspaper. It's the closing of shops at noon for lunch. An act that feels almost rebellious in a world of 24/7 hustle. It's the rhythm of Sunday markets, where conversations last longer than transactions. For all its global fame, France is still local. People know their butcher, their baker, their pharmacist. The idea of terroir, the character of place, applies to everything, not just wine. Cheese tastes different because of the grass the cows ate, the air that touched it, the hands that shaped it. That same principle extends to art, music, and even conversation. Everything is rooted in place. The elegance of resistance. France's reputation for strikes and protests isn't a flaw, it's a feature. The right to complain, loudly and publicly, is practically sacred. The French don't see dissent as chaos, they see it as duty. From the barricades of 1789 to the yellow vests of today, protest is how France speaks to itself. There's a beautiful irony in that. A country known for romance is just as defined by rebellion. Maybe that's the secret to its longevity. It never lets the system harden too much. It keeps cracking its own shell, forcing rebirth. The same instinct that created haute couture and fine cuisine also fuels the country's social movements. Creation and defiance share a heartbeat here. France seduces you with beauty, then challenges you to see past it. Behind the art and elegance is a country that still wrestles with colonial ghosts, economic tensions, and questions of belonging, but faces them in public out loud, unashamed. That's why travelers who fall for France rarely visit, they engage with it. It becomes a conversation that never really ends. In the next part, we'll leave the city entirely, into the landscapes, the small towns, the forgotten corners where France's soul still hides behind old shutters and vine-covered walls. Because France isn't just what it shows the world, it's what it keeps for itself. Where France breathes. You don't really meet France in Paris. You observe her there, dramatic, eloquent, dressed for the stage. But to understand her, to feel her heartbeat, you have to leave the capital and let the road take you somewhere unplanned. France begins to reveal itself not in monuments, but in textures. The creak of a wooden shutter, the smell of wet cobblestones after rain, the hum of bees above lavender fields. It's a country that teaches you how to slow down. And if you're willing to listen, it will show you how it truly lives. The countryside as a philosophy. The first surprise about rural France is how deliberate it feels. The vineyards in Burgundy don't look that perfect by accident. They're the result of centuries of precise hands, family by family, tending to the same soil. The rhythm of life here hasn't changed much. Farmers still rise with the light, shops still close for lunch, and meals are still treated as sacred pauses in the day. The French countryside isn't just land, it's a mindset. It doesn't shout for attention. It waits for you to adjust your pace. There's an unspoken rule. You don't rush beauty. You could drive for hours through Provence or the Dordogne and never see anything famous. Yet, every bend reveals another postcard. A crumbling stone house wrapped in ivy, a field of sunflowers turning their faces to the sun, an old woman carrying a baguette home from the morning market. These small moments are France's true masterpieces. Village time. Every French village is a story in slow motion. You arrive thinking it's quiet, maybe even too quiet. Then, as the hours pass, the rhythm unfolds. The baker opens early, delivering warm loaves to the few locals who gather to gossip. The cafe begins to hum by mid-morning. Around noon, shutters close, the streets empty, and an almost sacred stillness settles over everything. By evening, life returns. Children playing in narrow lanes, the smell of garlic and butter drifting from windows, the sound of laughter echoing across stone courtyards. It's a rhythm that feels almost rebellious in a world addicted to motion. France's villages remind you that life doesn't need to be optimized. It just needs to be lived. And here's the beautiful irony. In these places where almost nothing happens, you often feel the most alive. The art of eating slowly. To understand France, you must eat like a local, not for sustenance, but for connection. Lunch isn't something squeezed between obligations. It is the obligation. In Lyon, the Bouchons serve food that feels like history on a plate. Sausages, tripe, quenelles, dishes that carry the memory of workers and families, of generations who refuse to let recipes die. In Alsace, you taste the blend of France and Germany in the same bite. In the Southwest, duck confit and cassoulet are practically religion. And then there's wine, not a luxury, but a language. In Burgundy, every slope of vineyard has a name, a character, a soul. The locals can taste geography. They don't drink to escape. They drink to participate, to honor the land, the season, the moment. That might be France's quietest secret. It still believes in the moment. The hidden beauty of the forgotten towns. Drive long enough, and you'll start finding towns that don't even appear in guidebooks. Maybe a single boulangerie, a church that hasn't seen a wedding in years, a square where the fountain still runs, but no one stops to look. These towns can feel melancholic, but not sad. They're the last guardians of something pure. France's population has been moving steadily toward the cities, leaving these rural pockets slower, older, and quieter. Yet in that stillness, you feel something sacred, a link to the France that once was. You meet innkeepers who've lived in the same house since birth, blacksmiths who still hammer by hand, farmers who can read the sky like a calendar. They might never visit Paris, but they hold the memory of the country in their bones. If the cities are where France shows itself, the countryside is where it remembers itself. Seasons and spirit. France doesn't just change through geography, it changes through time. Autumn paints the vineyards in copper and fire. Winter cloaks the mountains in silence. Spring bursts into bloom so fast, it feels like the land is exhaling. Summer stretches endlessly in the south. Cicadas, long lunches, lazy rivers. Each season isn't just weather. It's an emotion. French culture still moves with these natural rhythms. You can feel it in the way markets change, the produce, the flowers, even the colors of the streets. There's a reverence for the cycles of life that modernity hasn't managed to erase. And maybe that's why so many travelers fall in love with France, because it lets you feel time again. The rural paradox. For all its beauty, rural France also holds contradictions. Abandoned farms, aging populations, young people leaving for cities. In some areas, immigration and tourism are the only forces keeping villages alive. There's a quiet anxiety under the charm, a fear that one day the rhythm might stop. But the French, in their way, refuse to surrender. They start cooperatives, open art studios in old barns, turn ancient mills into ghost houses. They find ways to make the old world relevant again. You realize that France's beauty isn't just in its perfection, it's in its resilience. Moments you don't photograph. Every traveler eventually discovers a truth. The best memories don't fit in photos. It's the night you sat on a hill overlooking a village and listened to church bells echo through the valley. It's the taste of wine poured by someone who doesn't speak your language but insists you try just one more glass. It's the warmth of a summer evening when the air smells like jasmine and baked earth, and the only sound is laughter coming from an open window. France has a way of turning strangers into participants, even for a few days. And when you leave, you don't say goodbye. You just promise to return. By now, France feels less like a destination and more like a mood, a slow, breathing poem you live inside for a while. You understand why writers, painters, and dreamers have been drawn here for centuries. Because France doesn't give you an escape from reality. It gives you a better version of it. Modern France, tradition in the age of change. France is a paradox wrapped in perfume and protest banners. It loves beauty, but argues about it constantly. It clings to the past while inventing the future. It can fill the streets with tear gas one day and laughter the next. And somehow, it all still feels deliberate, like a nation choreographed around contradiction. The rhythm of protest. To outsiders, French demonstrations can look like chaos. But to the French, they are choreography, an ancient dance between citizens and the state. From the revolution to the yellow vests, the pattern never really changes. When something feels wrong, people pour into the streets. It isn't nihilism, it's ownership. In France, protest is a civic language. The café debates of the 18th century simply spilled into the boulevards of the 21st. Even now, pension reforms, labor rights, climate policy, every cause finds its audience and its march. And somehow, amid the smoke and chanting, you feel the same stubborn optimism that built the Republic. We fight because we still believe this can work. Technology in a country built for conversation. Walk through Paris and you'll see teenagers taking selfies beside centuries-old statues, delivery scooters weaving past horse-drawn carriages from tourist rides, and cafes filled with laptops instead of newspapers. France has embraced the digital world, but cautiously. There's a national instinct to defend conversation, handwriting, and real bread over digital shortcuts. Even in high-tech startups, lunch still lasts an hour, and meetings end with espresso instead of Zoom fatigue. It's not resistance to progress. It's a demand for balance. France wants to modernize without losing the parts of itself that feel human. Immigration, identity, and the new mosaic. Modern France is no longer a single story. It's North African markets in Marseille, Vietnamese bakeries in Paris, Portuguese villages in the Allure, West African rhythms spilling from banlieue apartments. Each wave of migration added new threads to the national fabric and new tensions. France has long wrestled with its colonial legacy, with questions of belonging, equality, and what it truly means to be French. Yet, in the middle of that struggle, there's creativity. Hip-hop, street art, and film have become the new frontiers of cultural expression. Directors like Laj Lai and musicians like Aya Nakamura speak for a generation that feels global yet rooted in the hexagon soil. Modern France is still debating itself, but it's also learning to sing in more than one voice. The cities evolve. Paris may always dominate the imagination, but the rest of France is quietly reinventing itself. Lyon is a culinary capital turned green tech hub. Bordeaux, once sleepy and wine-obsessed, now hums with students and digital startups. Nantes and Toulouse are magnets for artists fleeing expensive rent, turning warehouses into studios and loft theaters. The French concept of la qualité de vie, quality of life, has gone regional. Smaller cities are drawing people back from Paris, offering culture without the chaos. There's a new migration underway, not from country to city, but from stress to serenity. Art never retires here. Art in France isn't a museum piece. It's a conversation that keeps moving. In Marseille, graffiti climbs old fortress walls like ivy. In Alps, photography festivals bring the world's best to ancient Roman arenas. In Paris, digital galleries project Van Gogh onto the walls of warehouses. The old masters coexist with street painters and VR installations. And no matter how modern the medium, the message is the same: beauty still matters. For a country that built cathedrals, this is its new cathedral, the collective imagination. The Green Awakening. Climate change has forced even the proudest traditionalists to rethink everything. You see vineyards experimenting with new grapes, cities banning cars in their centers, farmers switching to organic methods not for trend but survival. France has begun to view sustainability as culture, not politics. Markets push local produce because it tastes better. Solar panels rise beside medieval towers, and no one flinches anymore. It's as if France finally realized the future could be beautiful, too. Daily life in the 2020s. Ask a Parisian what has changed most, and they might say, nothing and everything. Boulangeries still open at dawn. Families still gather on Sundays. But now you pay with contactless cards, plan trips through apps, and stream debates about artificial intelligence over morning coffee. There's an ease with contradiction here. Modern France doesn't try to erase the past. It stages it alongside the present. A medieval cathedral lit by neon. A centuries-old recipe made vegan. A nation of readers now scrolling TikTok but still arguing about philosophy. It's not perfect, but it's alive. Tourism reimagined. After years of over-tourism, France is redefining what travel means. Visitors are being nudged toward lesser-known regions. The Jura Mountains, Corsica's inland villages, the windswept coast of Brittany. The message is subtle but firm. Come for experience, not consumption. Stay longer. Eat local. Learn a few words. Respect the rhythm. It's a quieter revolution, but one that could save both the environment and the soul of travel itself. France after midnight. Every country has its magic hour, and in France it's after midnight. The tourists are asleep, the streets go still, and the hum of scooters fades into the distance. You stand on a bridge, any bridge, and realize the air smells faintly of wine, rain, and old stone. This is the France that artists chase and lovers never forget. It's not about landmarks or lists. It's about a feeling, a soft defiance against time. Why France endures? France endures because it refuses to become simple. It wants to be adored, but not understood. It wants change, but on its own terms. It guards beauty like a secret and shares it like a gift. Every generation rewrites what it means to be French, but the core remains the same. Liberté, égalité, fraternité, freedom, equality, brotherhood, and maybe one more word they forgot to carve into the marble: style. Because even rebellion looks elegant here. Epilogue. The last morning. When you leave France, you notice something strange. Every other place feels louder, faster, rougher around the edges. You realize France didn't just give you sights, it gave you pace. You start looking for fresh bread in the morning. You sit a little longer at lunch. You notice light falling on old buildings and think, that's very French. And maybe that's the point. France doesn't want you to remember it. It wants you to live a little more like it.